The court papers arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was drinking coffee. Mental incompetency hearing scheduled for Friday, October 15, the document read. My sister Sophia had filed a petition claiming I was mentally unstable and unfit to manage my inheritance. I stared at the papers. Dad had died 3 months ago, leaving me his entire $2.8 million estate. The will was clear, everything went to me, Excel, his youngest son. Sophia got nothing because she'd stolen $50,000 from him 2 years earlier. My hands shook reading the documents. Dr. Mills, a psychiatrist I'd never met, had signed papers stating I suffered from severe depression and paranoid thoughts. I'd never seen this doctor. Sophia had attached witness statements from 3 people claiming I'd been acting strange. They described incidents that never happened. Phone calls where I supposedly threatened myself. Times when I allegedly couldn't recognize family members. All lies designed to steal my inheritance. That's when I decided she had picked the wrong person to mess with. I called my lawyer immediately. Timothy Hayes had handled Dad's estate and knew the situation with Sophia. His voice was tense when I explained what happened. This is serious, Excel, he said. If the court declares you mentally incompetent, Sophia could become your guardian. She'd control everything, your inheritance, your bank accounts, even where you live. The reality hit me hard. Sophia wasn't just trying to steal my money. She was trying to take control of my entire life. A successful guardianship would let her lock me in a facility while she spent Dad's fortune. What evidence do they have? Timothy asked. I read him the psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Mills. Timothy was quiet for a moment. I've never heard of this doctor. Let me check his credentials. We need our own psychiatric evaluation to counter their claims. After hanging up, I thought about how we'd gotten here. Sophia and I used to be close when we were kids. But money changed people, and Dad's wealth had poisoned her. I should have seen this coming. The next morning, I drove to Dr. Mills' office address listed on the court documents. The building was real. A professional medical complex in downtown Portland. But when I checked the directory, there was no Dr. Mills listed. I asked the security guard about Dr. Mills. He checked his computer and shook his head. No doctor by that name has ever had an office here. Room 318, where it says he practices? That's been empty for 6 months. My stomach dropped. Sophia had created a fake doctor to support her case. This wasn't just greed, this was fraud. Criminal fraud that could send her to prison if I could prove it. I took pictures of the empty office and got a written statement from the security guard. Then I called Timothy with the news. This changes everything, he said. Fraud is a felony. But we need to be careful about how we handle this. If we expose it too early, she might cover her tracks. Sophia thought she was dealing with someone mentally unstable. She had no idea I was building a case that would destroy her. That evening, I called my cousin Danny to ask about the witnesses who'd signed statements against me. Danny worked with one of them, Pete, who claimed I'd called him making threats. Pete never mentioned any weird calls from you, Danny said. In fact, he asked me last week how you were doing after your dad's death. He seemed genuinely concerned. So Pete hadn't written that statement. Someone else had forged his signature, just like they'd forged the doctor's credentials. I spent the next 2 days investigating the other witnesses. The second person, Mrs. Johnson, was our elderly neighbor. When I visited her, she was confused. I never signed any papers about you, dear, she said. Someone called asking questions about your mental health, but I told them you seemed fine. The third witness was my former boss. I called him directly. Excel, I never signed anything, he said. Someone did contact me asking about your work performance, but I gave you a positive reference. 3 fake witness statements. 1 fake doctor. all designed to make me look mentally unstable. The pieces started falling into place when I discovered how Sophia had found Dr. Mills' name. I spent hours researching and found a real Dr. Wesley Mills who had died 8 months ago. His obituary was online, along with his former practice information. Sophia had stolen a dead doctor's identity to create her fake psychiatric evaluation. She'd probably figured no one would check too carefully. But she'd made mistakes. The fake evaluation was dated 2 weeks ago, but Dr. Mills had died 8 months ago. The office address was wrong. The medical license number belonged to a different doctor. I printed everything and added it to my growing evidence file. Timothy was right, we needed to let her dig herself deeper before we struck back. The competency hearing was in 3 days. I got my own psychiatric evaluation from a real doctor who confirmed I was completely mentally stable. I also gathered character references from friends, neighbors, and former co-workers. Meanwhile, I started digging into Sophia's life. What I found shocked me. Her financial records showed she was in serious debt. Credit cards maxed out, behind on her mortgage, car payments missed. 2 days before the hearing, I followed Sophia to see what she was up to. I parked across from her apartment and watched her leave around 10 in the morning. She drove to a lawyer's office downtown. She stayed inside for 2 hours. When she came out, she was smiling and talking on her phone. Her body language suggested everything was going according to plan. That afternoon, she drove to an expensive car dealership. I watched her test drive a BMW and talked to the salesman for over an hour. She was already spending my inheritance in her mind. The next day, she went house hunting in the wealthy part of town. The real estate agent showed her 3 different properties, all worth over $1 million. Sophia was planning her new life funded by stolen money. I documented everything with photos and videos. Every move she made was more evidence of her fraudulent intentions. That evening, Timothy called. Using a dead doctor's credentials to create false medical documents is a Class B felony. If convicted, she could face up to 10 years in prison. What about the hearing tomorrow? We're going to let her present her case first. Then we'll destroy everything with the truth. The morning of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse early. Sophia was already there with her lawyer, looking confident, even happy. When she saw me, she put on a concerned face. "Excel, I'm so glad you made it. I know this is hard, but I'm only trying to help you." I stepped back. "Save it, Sophia. We both know what this is really about." Her mask slipped for just a second, and I saw the real person underneath. Cold, calculating, desperate. The hearing began at 10 o'clock. Judge Patterson was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Sophia's lawyer presented their case first. He submitted the fake psychiatric evaluation, the forged witness statements, and argued why I was mentally incompetent to manage my inheritance. "Your Honor," he said, "Mr. Excel clearly suffers from severe mental illness that makes him dangerous to himself and others." Sophia dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the worried sister perfectly. Judge Patterson reviewed the documents carefully. Everything seemed to be going exactly as Sophia had planned. Then Timothy stood up. "Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that will show this entire petition is based on fraud." Timothy's opening statement was devastating. "Your Honor, we will prove that the psychiatric evaluation is based on a dead doctor's stolen identity. We will show that the witness statements were forged. We will demonstrate that this entire proceeding is fraud designed to steal Mr. Excel's rightful inheritance." Sophia's face went white. Her lawyer started shuffling through papers, clearly caught off guard. Timothy called his first witness, the security guard from the medical building. The guard testified that no Dr. Mills had ever practiced at the listed address. He provided written confirmation that room 318 had been empty for 6 months. Next came the real witnesses. Pete testified that he'd never signed any statement about my mental health. Mrs. Johnson said the same thing. My former boss confirmed he'd never submitted documents to the court. Judge Patterson's expression grew darker with each witness. Then Timothy called Dr. Wesley Mills' widow to testify. Mrs. Mills confirmed that her husband had died 8 months ago and that someone had been using his identity fraudulently. Your Honor, Timothy said, we have Dr. Mills' death certificate, dated 8 months before this supposed psychiatric evaluation was conducted. Sophia's lawyer asked for a recess. Judge Patterson denied it. Sophia tried to save herself by claiming she'd been deceived too. Your Honor, I hired someone to investigate my brother's mental health. I had no idea the documents were fake. I'm as shocked as anyone. Judge Patterson saw right through it. Ms. Sophia, are you telling this court that you submitted documents to a competency hearing without verifying their authenticity? I trusted the person I hired. I thought they were legitimate. Timothy stood up. Your Honor, we have evidence that contradicts Ms. Sophia's claim of innocence. He presented photos and videos of Sophia car shopping and house hunting. These were taken in the days leading up to this hearing. The judge studied the evidence carefully. Ms. Sophia, can you explain why you were shopping for luxury cars and million-dollar homes while supposedly concerned about your brother's mental health? Sophia's lawyer whispered something to her, but she ignored him. Those activities have nothing to do with this case. On the contrary, Judge Patterson replied. They suggest premeditation and fraudulent intent. Timothy continued presenting evidence. Bank records showing Sophia's desperate financial situation. The research trail proving she'd stolen Dr. Mills' identity from his obituary. Phone records showing calls to fake witnesses. Each piece of evidence made Sophia's situation worse. By noon, it was over. Judge Patterson's ruling was swift and harsh. This court finds no evidence whatsoever that Mr. Excel is mentally incompetent. Furthermore, this court finds clear evidence that Ms. Sophia has committed multiple felonies in an attempt to defraud her brother. She dismissed the competency petition immediately. Then she did something that made my heart race with satisfaction. I am ordering the court clerk to forward all evidence to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Ms. Sophia, you have the right to remain silent, but I strongly advise you to obtain criminal defense counsel immediately. Sophia collapsed into her chair. Her civil lawyer looked terrified. Judge Patterson wasn't finished. Mr. Excel, I want to personally apologize for what you've been put through. You have every right to pursue civil damages against your sister. As we left the courthouse, Sophia tried one last time to talk to me. Excel, please. I'm your sister. We can work this out privately. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman had tried to steal my inheritance by claiming I was mentally ill. She'd forged documents, stolen a dead man's identity, and lied to a judge. No, Sophia, I said quietly. We can't work this out. You made your choice when you decided to destroy me for money. Timothy and I walked away, leaving her standing on the courthouse steps. The criminal charges came 3 days after the hearing. Detective Moses called to tell me the district attorney was filing multiple felony charges against Sophia. Identity theft, fraud, forgery, perjury, and attempted theft by deception, he said. With her financial situation and the premeditated nature of the crimes, she's looking at serious prison time. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Sophia had done this to herself, but she was still my sister. A week later, I got a call from a bail bondsman. Sophia had been arrested and was trying to make bail. She needed someone to co-sign for her bond. She said you're her brother and might help, the bondsman said. No, I replied. I won't be helping her with anything. That evening, Sophia's number appeared on my phone. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Excel, I'm in jail, she said, her voice cracking. I need help. I need money for a lawyer. Please, I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister when you tried to have me declared mentally incompetent, I said. I was desperate. I owe people money. Bad people. They were threatening me. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered sitting in that courtroom watching her lie to a judge. That's not my problem anymore, Sophia. I hung up and blocked her number. The next few weeks brought good news. Timothy helped me secure the inheritance completely. All $2.8 million was now safely in my control. The court had also awarded me additional damages for emotional distress and legal costs Sophia had caused. Meanwhile, Sophia's life was falling apart exactly as she'd planned mine to. Her apartment was being foreclosed on. Her car was repossessed. Credit card companies were pursuing judgments against her. Detective Rodriguez called with updates on the criminal case. The prosecutor is confident about conviction. Your evidence was solid, and Sophia's lawyer is already talking about a plea deal. What kind of plea deal? I asked. Probably 5 to 7 years with restitution. She'd have to pay back your legal costs and admit to all charges. 5 to 7 years in prison. It seemed fitting for someone who tried to steal my entire inheritance and lock me away. That weekend, I drove out to Dad's grave for the first time since his funeral. I sat on the grass and told him what had happened. I wish you could have seen it, Dad, I said. She thought she was so smart, but she underestimated both of us. You taught me to document everything and think ahead. Those lessons saved me. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment I felt like he was listening. 2 months after the hearing, I received an unexpected visitor. Sophia's lawyer called and asked if I'd be willing to meet with them. Against Timothy's advice, I agreed. We met at Timothy's office. Sophia looked terribly thin, pale, wearing an orange jail jumpsuit. Her expensive clothes and perfect makeup were gone. Excel, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I want to apologize. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did, but I need you to know I never meant for it to go this far. I stared at her. You filed fake medical documents claiming I was mentally ill. You forged witness statements. You were going to have me locked up so you could steal Dad's money. Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. My client is prepared to accept full responsibility for her actions. She's willing to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. What does she want from me? I asked. Sophia leaned forward. I want your forgiveness. I want you to ask the judge for leniency at my sentencing. I know I don't deserve it, but you're the only family I have left. The irony was incredible. The same person who tried to destroy me was now begging for mercy. You're not my family anymore, I said. You made your choice, Sophia. Now I'm making mine. Sophia's sentencing hearing was scheduled for early December. Timothy advised me to attend and give a victim impact statement. The judge needs to understand how her actions affected you. I spent weeks writing that statement, trying to capture the full scope of what Sophia had done. The fear of losing everything Dad had worked for. The betrayal by someone I'd trusted my whole life. The day of sentencing, the courtroom was packed. Sophia had pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a 6-year sentence with possibility of parole in 4. When my turn came to speak, I walked to the podium and looked directly at Sophia. She couldn't meet my eyes. Your Honor, I began, the defendant isn't just my sister. She used to be my best friend. Growing up, she was the person I trusted most in the world. That's what makes her betrayal so devastating. I talked about finding the court papers that Tuesday morning. The shock of discovering someone I loved was trying to destroy me. She didn't just try to steal my inheritance, I said. She tried to steal my freedom, my dignity, and my future. If her plan had succeeded, I would be locked in a facility right now while she spent our father's money. Sophia was crying by the time I finished. Her tears seemed real. She finally understood what she tried to do to me. Judge Patterson listened carefully to my statement, then delivered her sentence. Ms. Sophia, Judge Patterson said, your crimes represent a profound violation of family trust and an abuse of our legal system. You attempted to deprive your brother of his freedom and his inheritance through an elaborate fraud scheme. The judge reviewed the evidence again, the fake doctor, the forged signatures, the stolen identity. Each crime made Sophia's situation worse. However, I also note that you have accepted responsibility for your actions and expressed genuine remorse. I wondered where she was going with this. I hereby sentence you to 6 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after serving 4 years. You will also pay full restitution to your brother for all legal costs and emotional damages, totaling $127,000. Sophia's shoulders slumped. 6 years was a long time, but she'd avoided the maximum sentence of 10 years. Judge Patterson wasn't finished. Additionally, you are permanently barred from contesting your father's will or making any claim against your brother's inheritance. Any future contact with the victim must be approved by the court. It was over. Sophia was led away in handcuffs while I sat in the gallery feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. Justice had been served, but I'd lost my sister forever. Timothy patted my shoulder. You did the right thing. She brought this on herself. Life after Sophia's sentencing was surprisingly peaceful. I moved into a larger house, something Dad would have approved of. I donated some of the inheritance to mental health organizations. I also started dating again. Anna was a teacher I met at a coffee shop. She knew about my situation but didn't judge me for sending my sister to prison. You protected yourself, she said when I told her the whole story. Anyone would have done the same thing. But not everyone agreed. Some extended family members thought I'd been too harsh. My cousin Danny stopped speaking to me after Sophia was sentenced. She's still your sister, he said during our last conversation. You could have shown mercy. She showed me no mercy when she tried to have me declared mentally incompetent, I replied. The truth was, I didn't regret my decision. Sophia had made calculated choices to destroy my life for money. She'd earned every day of her 6-year sentence. 6 months after sentencing, I received my first letter from Sophia in prison. Another letter from Sophia. This one was different, less apologetic, more reflective. I've been thinking about Dad a lot lately, she wrote. I remember how disappointed he was when he found out about the money I took. I thought I could fix everything by getting the inheritance back, but I only made it worse. She went on to describe her life in prison. She was taking classes, working in the library, trying to better herself. I don't expect you to forgive me, the letter concluded, but I hope someday you can understand that I was a different person when I did those things. I showed the letter to Anna. What do you think? I asked. I think she's learned something, Anna said. But that doesn't mean you owe her anything. She tried to destroy your life. You don't have to forgive her just because she's sorry now. Anna was right. Sophia's remorse didn't undo the damage she'd caused. It didn't erase the months of stress and fear I'd endured. I wrote back once. I received your letters. I'm glad you're working on yourself, but I'm not ready for a relationship with you. Maybe someday, but not now. That was the only contact we had during her first 2 years in prison. I focused on building my new life instead. Anna and I got engaged. I started a small construction company using part of Dad's inheritance. In Sophia's 3rd year of prison, something unexpected happened. Her lawyer called to tell me she'd been stabbed by another inmate and was in critical condition. She's asking for you, he said. The doctors aren't sure if she'll make it. I stood in my kitchen holding the phone, feeling numb. Despite everything Sophia had done, the thought of her dying felt wrong. Anna drove me to the prison hospital. Sophia looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, nothing like the confident woman who'd tried to steal my inheritance. "Excel," she whispered when she saw me. "I didn't think you'd come." "Neither did I said honestly. We talked for an hour. She told me about the attack. Apparently she'd been targeted because word got out that she'd stolen from family. Even criminals had standards. "I've had a lot of time to think," she said. "About Dad, about us, about what I did. I was so angry when he cut me out of the will. I felt like he loved you more than me." "He didn't love me more," I said. "He was disappointed in you for stealing from him. There's a difference." Sophia nodded weakly. "I know that now. I was too proud to see it then." Before I left, she grabbed my hand. "Losing you has been worse than any prison sentence. You were the best part of our family, and I threw it away for money." I squeezed her hand once and left. Sophia survived her injuries and was transferred to a different facility. We didn't communicate for several months after that hospital visit, but something had shifted between us. When she was eligible for parole after 4 years, her lawyer asked if I would support her application. It was an impossible decision. I discussed it with Anna, who was now my wife. "What does your gut tell you?" she asked. "That she's genuinely changed," I admitted. "But I don't know if I can trust that feeling." In the end, I wrote a neutral letter to the parole board. I didn't support her release, but I didn't oppose it either. I stated the facts of her crimes and noted that she'd expressed remorse. Sophia was granted parole with strict conditions. She had to live in a halfway house, maintain employment, and stay away from me unless I gave written permission for contact. 2 weeks after her release, she called and asked if we could meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a park where we'd played as children. Sophia looked older, thinner, but healthier than she had in the prison hospital. "Thank you for not fighting my parole," she said. "I know I didn't deserve your help." "I didn't help you," I said. "I just told them the truth." We sat on a bench and watched kids playing. For a few minutes, it almost felt normal. "I can't give you back the years I stole," Sophia said finally. "But I can try to be worthy of forgiveness someday." Over the next year, Sophia slowly rebuilt her life. She found work at a non-profit organization helping ex-convicts reintegrate into society. The irony of her job wasn't lost on either of us. She sent updates occasionally, always brief, never asking for anything. She was living in a small apartment, paying restitution from her wages, attending therapy. Anna and I had our first child that year, a daughter we named Hope. When Sophia sent a card congratulating us, Anna surprised me by suggesting we invite her to meet the baby. "She's your sister," Anna said. "Hope should know her aunt, even if it's complicated." After everything she did? People change, Excel. Maybe not always, but sometimes. I thought about that for weeks. Dad had been hurt by Sophia's theft, but he'd never stopped loving her. Finally, I called Sophia and invited her for Sunday dinner. The conversation was awkward at first, but seeing her hold Hope broke down something inside me. She was gentle with the baby, careful and loving. "She's beautiful," Sophia said, tears in her eyes. "She looks like you did when you were little." We didn't talk about the past that day. We talked about Hope, about Sophia's job, about small, safe topics. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. Rebuilding trust with Sophia was slow work. We met monthly at first, then more frequently as months passed. She never asked for money or favors. She never made excuses for what she'd done. The real test came when Sophia finished paying her restitution. She'd worked 2 jobs for 3 years to pay back the $127,000. When she made the final payment, she called to let me know. "I know money can't fix what I broke," she said. "But at least the legal debt is settled." A few months later, Hope took her first steps. Anna called Sophia to share the news, and Sophia cried on the phone. But I still kept boundaries. Sophia was never alone with Hope. She didn't have access to any financial information. She knew that one mistake would end our relationship forever. "I understand," she said when I explained the rules. "I broke your trust completely. It's up to me to earn it back, piece by piece." The breakthrough came on the 5th anniversary of Dad's death. Anna and I were visiting his grave with Hope when Sophia appeared. She'd brought flowers. "I talk to him sometimes," she said as we were leaving. "I tell him I'm sorry for disappointing him. I tell him about Hope and how proud he'd be of the father you've become." For the first time since that Tuesday morning 5 years earlier, I hugged my sister. That hug marked a turning point in our relationship. Sophia started joining us for holidays and family dinners. She babysat Hope occasionally, always with Anna present. She also began sharing stories about our childhood that I'd almost forgotten. Memories of Christmas mornings and summer vacations, of the time she taught me to ride a bike. "I lost sight of who we used to be," she said one evening as we watched Hope play. "I let money and desperation turn me into someone I hated. But being here with you and your family reminds me of who I want to be." Anna was pregnant with our second child by then. When we found out it was a boy, Sophia was one of the first people we called. "Have you picked a name?" she asked. "We're thinking about Harold," I said. "After Dad." Sophia was quiet for a long moment. "He'd like that. He always wanted the family name to continue." When Harold was born, Sophia was there at the hospital. She held her nephew with the same gentle care she'd shown Hope. The final piece of healing came when Sophia asked if she could contribute to a college fund for the kids. She didn't have much money, but she wanted to help secure their futures. "I can't give them an inheritance like Dad left you," she said. "But I can give them something to show they're loved." I accepted her offer because it wasn't about the money. It was about her commitment to being a positive force in their lives. 6 years after Sophia's release from prison, our relationship had evolved into something neither of us expected. We weren't the same siblings we'd been before her betrayal, but we'd built something new and stronger. Sophia had proven herself through years of consistent behavior. She'd honored every boundary, met every expectation, and slowly earned back a place in our family. One evening, as we sat on my back porch watching the kids play, Sophia brought up something I'd been wondering about. "Do you ever regret how things played out?" she asked. "Sending me to prison, I mean." I thought about the question for a long time. "No," I said finally. "You needed to face consequences for what you did. If I'd just forgiven you immediately, you might never have learned why it was wrong." "Prison changed me," she admitted. "Not just the punishment, but having to live with what I'd done. I don't think I would have understood that any other way." She was right. The Sophia who'd tried to steal my inheritance was gone, replaced by someone who understood the value of family and trust. "I'm glad you fought back," she said. "I needed someone to stop me from destroying myself completely." As the sun set, I realized that sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone's worst impulses. 10 years after that first Tuesday morning, I stood in the same kitchen where I'd read those terrible court papers. Anna was making breakfast while Hope and Harold got ready for school. Sophia was there too, helping Harold with his shoes. It was an ordinary morning in an extraordinary life. I'd defended my inheritance, sent my sister to prison, and somehow found our way back to being a family. Sophia had served her time, made her amends, and proven her commitment to being better. I'd learned that standing up for yourself doesn't make you cruel, and that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the lessons. "Uncle Excel," Hope called out, "Mom says you're taking us to Grandpa's grave today." It was the anniversary of Dad's death, and we'd made it a tradition to visit together as a family. "That's right," I said. "Go get your coats." As the kids ran upstairs, Sophia caught my eye. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for giving me the chance to be part of this." I nodded, thinking about all the choices that had led us here. "Thank you for being worth the chance." We drove to the cemetery together, for adults and 2 children honoring a man who'd built something lasting with his love and his money and his example. At Dad's grave, we stood in a circle while each person shared a memory. Hope talked about the construction company Grandpa had started. Harold said Grandpa was in heaven building houses for angels. When Sophia's turn came, her voice was soft but steady. I told him I'm sorry for the pain I caused this family. I told him I'm grateful his son had the strength to save us both from my worst impulses. Anna spoke about the man she'd never met but knew through our stories. I talked about his work ethic, his integrity, and his belief that family came first. As we walked back to the car, Harold slipped his hand into mine. "Daddy, why did Aunt Sophia go to jail?" "She made some bad choices and had to face consequences," I said. "But she learned from her mistakes and became a better person. Like when I have to sit in timeout?" "Something like that, buddy. But much longer." Hope looked back at her aunt walking with Anna. "I'm glad she came back. She tells the best bedtime stories." I squeezed my daughter's hand. "Me too, sweetheart." That evening, I found the old box of documents from Sophia's case. The fake psychiatric evaluation, the forged witness statements, the evidence of her fraud. I'd kept it as insurance at first, then as a reminder. Now it feels like ancient history. I carried the box outside and fed the papers into our fire pit one by one. Anna and Sophia watched from the porch as smoke carried away the last remnants of our family's darkest chapter. "Are you sure?" Sophia asked. I lit the final document. "I'm sure," I said. "We don't need these anymore." As the flames consumed the past, I thought about Dad's real legacy. Not just the money he'd left behind, but the lesson that love sometimes requires tough choices. The fire burned down to embers as we sat together under the stars.